This video is going to be about simplifying surds. A surd is the root of a whole number which produces an irrational number. So for example, the square root of 2, that's a whole number and it's been rooted. If I were to press square root on my calculator, I would get 1.41423562 ... Now the important thing about this is an irrational number because it's a decimal, but importantly there's no repeating pattern into the decimal and it goes on forever. Okay, now this is not a surd. For example, square root of 36, that simply comes to 6. So that's not a surd and this is a surd. Now you may be asked to simplify a number. So you might be asked, for example, to simplify the square root of 98. Now the square root of 98, what we've got to think of, are there any rational numbers like these which can make up 98? Now the square root of 98 could be expressed as 49 times 2. Two 49s is 98. Now, what we can do now is this square root of 49 we can write on its own, and we can write the square root of 2 like that. So you're allowed to split square roots. Now, the square root of 49, as you know, is 7, but the square root of 2 would become an irrational number. So I need to write it like that. And finally, simplified, we would write it as 7 root 2. 7 root 2. Now, if you've got access to a calculator and you put in the square root of 98 and then press the equals button, it would come up with 7 root 2. So a calculator will automatically simplify things for you, which might help you if you want to do some practice. If you press the S to D button, it would convert this surd form into a decimal form. Okay, let's have a little go at a my go and a your go. So I'm asked to simplify the square root of 20. Now, I've got to think of numbers which I can easily square root, which makes up 20. So 20, I think, can be made up of, let's say, 4 times 5. And I chose 4 because I know that can be square rooted. So we can express that as the square root of 4 times the square root of 5. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 5 would produce an irrational number. So my final answer is 2 root 5. Right, time for you to have a go. Try this one. If you'd like to pause the video. Okay, so the square root of 300. Now I'm thinking of square numbers that make up 300. The most obvious one to me is 100. And 100 times 3 will give me 300. So I could write that as the square root of 100 times the square root of 3, which is 10, times the square root of 3, which I can write as 10 root 3. Okay, so here are two more complicated examples. It'd be a good idea if you pause the video now and have a go at these two, and I'll show you the answer in a moment. Okay, let's try this then. Square root of 45. Okay, so 45, if I think of some square numbers that make up 45, maybe 9 times 5 make up 45, times x, and I want to be equal to the square root of 180. Well, let's try and think of some numbers that make up 180. How about 9 times 20? So the square root of 9 is 3, times the square root of 5, times x is equal to 3, which is the square root of 9, times the square root of 20. Now, one thing I've noticed is the square root of 20 can actually be simplified even further. So I could write this as 3 times the square root of 5 times x is equal to 3 times, now the square root of 20 I could write as square root of 4 times 5. So that gives me 3 times the square root of 5 times x is equal to 3. Well, the square root of 4 is 2 times the square root of 5. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cancel things out. I can divide by 3, which will cancel out the 3's here. I can also divide by the square root of 5, which will cancel these out, leaving me with x is equal to 2. Right, let's try this one. So 5 times, now the square root of 28, I can think of that's 4 times 7. Take away 63, that's 9 times 7. So 5 times the square root of 4 times the square root of 7, take away the square root of 9 times the square root of 7. Gives me 5 times 2 times the square root of 7 cannot be simplified any further. 9, square root of 9 is 3 times the square root of 7. Now let's put these together again. 5 times 2 times the square root of 7 can be expressed as 10 root 7. Take away 3 root 7. Now 10 root 7 take away 3 root 7 can be expressed as 7 root 7.